Okay, our story begins, if everything is true, with Adam and Eve. According to the Bible and the histories that was recorded within it, Adam and Eve were the first two human beings created. Actually, Adam was supposed to be the first man created. Then he created a woman. Before mankind was created, if you journey back beforehand, I have read in the beginning of Genesis that they had what they call a pre-Adamic race. Or in other words, today's demons are supposed to be the humans that used to live on this earth, if I'm not mistaken. Or should I say according to the historical events. So, if that was true, that they are, then it had to be true that the dinosaurs were created as well. Now, if everything was created, they have to have a creator to create it, if I'm not mistaken. So, if they had a creator, then his name had to be Jesus or God or whoever you want to call it. If everything in history is correct, as we are to know, as it has been passed down from generation to generation, is it true all these events took place? That'll be for you, the viewer, to decide. All my job is to do really is to explain the different historical events and for my viewers to figure out what's true and what's not true. Okay, as we move further, we learned that before the Creator created Adam, he had created all these other animals long before into what we call, or what was called, paradise. At the time, paradise was supposed to be somewhere around Africa, if the historical events are accurate. Well, if that was true, then as I read throughout the biblical versions within the Bible, that Eve was created. Now, if the events are true, before all of this, the Creator had created an angel, the first angel in heaven, if historical events are accurate. Then this angel was, now we know as the devil, but his real name is Lucifer, which means the morning star. After the Creator created this angel, then he started creating other angels. And if you think about it, during that time, all these angels are supposedly to worship the Creator, if events are accurate. Well, during that time, or should I say, it had to be a long period of time before the Creator created anything on earth. It had to be years before that this angel who was created first was jealous or envious, or put it whatever, however you want to put it. He was now to take a third of the angels, depending on how many angels that the Creator has created. Because as far as we know, if you read the historical events within the Bible, that every man has an angel. When I mean man, I mean mankind has an angel, a guardian angel. So if there are almost 1 billion, my name is Jeremiah, and I'm going to talk about our historical events throughout mankind's life. You're going to learn in this documentary that I'm doing, is it true that are we all descendants of Adam and Eve? Is it true that Jesus existed? Is the Bible as true as it says it is? Or the men who signed the Declaration of Independence, did they have anything to hide? As time goes on, you'll find out these questions, and you'll find out fact or fiction. Is it true or not true that these events occurred? Thank you. People, almost a billion people on earth, or should I say they are probably about 100 million, 200 million, maybe. I'd say about approximately 200 million people. Then they have to have at least 200 million angels, approximately that many. So if you think about it, then how many angels were there in heaven long before the Creator created things on earth? How long was it? That period, and how many angels? Well, as the Creator created all these other things, we learned in history that Adam and Eve has now been banned from the garden from eating the fruit. And if you read the history of these two people, or should I say of that section in the Bible, then you read it's because of the fruit of knowledge, which they could not have eaten. But according to history, at the time snakes had feet. But after they were banned, now the snakes themselves crawl on bellies. Interesting, isn't it? So, as I learned these different historical events as I was reading, because not only did I read the Bible, the whole book, I've also read the different history books of the different races of mankind. And that goes into another question. How were all these races of men, these different races of men, created? Because if you think about it, we all have different racial backgrounds. So if you think about it, if the Creator created Adam and Eve, He had to create other people besides Adam and Eve, if the historical events are true. Well, as we learn further, this earth was destroyed. The first destruction was the Ice Age, as mankind calls it. Because if you read within the Bible, it states how the Creator destroyed the earth, or should I say it covered the earth, or should I say the sun was blocked. So there are two theories that the sun was blocked. The first one is that an asteroid or a meteorite hit the earth and blocked the sun. The second is the volcano, how the volcanoes erupted and blocked the earth. Something blocked the earth, which in return made the earth cool, or should I say the temperature was lowered until it became ice, or should I say void. Then years later, this is when the Creator recreated with Adam and Eve, and then that second destruction was a flood, if all the events are true to their point. Well, that was the second one. The third one is supposed to be by fire, if I'm not mistaken. But as you move on into history, we learn that we learn that the Roman Empire at the time was this huge empire in the world. They also talked about Atlantis, if it was true or not. Scientists figure out it might be true, just like Troy. They think that Troy and Atlantis is almost the same city. But we'll never know. If Plato written that they had a city called Atlantis, then Atlantis was supposed to be this huge city, this major city, with having everything they wanted. And all of a sudden, it got sunk. Interesting. Troy was the same, but it was destroyed. Okay. Well, as you think about it, and as we move further, we learned that not only those cities, Troy and Atlantis, but we've learned that Rome became a huge empire. Before Rome became a huge empire, Egypt was the huge empire at the time. And if you think about it, if you read it, or if you've been to the country Egypt, you know that there are no bright skin, or should I say, Caucasian or white people that live there. Majority of them are brown skin or African American, or you can call them Egyptian if you want to. So at the time of Egypt, they had slaves at the time, as we know it. Or should I say, as history has been written about it. Well, according to what I've read in history as well, which you have to decide if it's true or not, at the time when Egypt was a huge empire, the rule was, or should I say one of the rules that I've read was, where these guards, male guards, had a chance to have a sexual relationship with one of their male slaves. It was possible for them. The only thing that was impossible was the male guards could not have sexual feelings, should I say, or they couldn't have sex with other male guards. It was almost like the male guards were almost dominant and their male slaves were recessive, if you want to think about it like that. So if you think about it, kind of homosexuality kind of was going on through that period of time. But if you also think about it and read, when the flood was over, Noah's son-in-law started having feelings too of homosexuality. So I think kind of when he started it, it kind of emerged, or should I say it wasn't even him. When there were other people before the flood, I had a feeling that that was happening during that time too, that period. Okay, after Egypt became this huge empire, then Rome became a huge empire. And if you read Revelations, then you get a chance to see the new Roman Empire. Well, if you think about the new Roman Empire, think about what's going on this century, and think about Europe. And could Europe, or the European Union, could that be the new Roman Empire that is into our society, or today's society? Is it that true? Well, as you move forward during that time, they also had slavery during that time, especially the Romans. Now the Romans were powerful as any government official could be. So they had slaves during that time. So it seems they had slaves not only just in Egypt, but during Rome time, when Rome became a huge empire. And then we had Caesar, and they had different type of Caesar, you know, there different, more than one Caesar. We had Julius Caesar, then Nero Caesar, and other who became head. And I'm assuming that Caesar was kind of like a salutation, kind of like, I'm not even going like Mr. or Miss or Miss, something like that. I think that was kind of the point to adding Caesar to your whatever name that was given to you at birth. And you also talk about, if you read the Bible, that Moses himself had freed the slaves from Egypt long before the Roman Empire. So as we keep moving forward in history, we learned not only the biblical part of history, but years later, around the, well, as we move forward to AD, because what I'm talking about is mainly BC. As we found out that this man that existed, who is called Jesus at the time, the language during that time that they spoke was called Aramaic. It's a dead language which is hardly spoken but it was a language that they used at that time. So think about this. Think about everything being everything was written down in a dead language, was Aramaic. Think about now the Greeks and Romans, or think about whatever culture came after that. How could they translate that? Which was a language hardly ever spoken. But during the Greeks and Roman times, yes, they had some people, I'm assuming they had some people who spoke the language, which I'm not even sure that they did. I'm not sure, because I'm not sure of all the languages in the world, but I had a feeling that maybe they had some type of a translators who could translate Aramaic. So you also learned about the different god and goddesses throughout Greek and Roman times, or during that period. And you'll learn that these people believed in different things, just as the Mayans believed in the stars, in astrology. The Romans and Greeks had their own god and goddesses, or should I say they had their own way of thinking of how can the sun come down, the sun shine, rain come down, how the plants grew, things like that. As you learn in history, basically, like I said, this documentary is basically, I'm just taking excerpts of different things that I've read and kind of throwing it out to the viewer, to you to figure it out. So this is your chance to kind of read up things that I'm talking about. Well, we moved forward and we learned that this man that was called Jesus, who had died, who was crucified. At the time, if you think about it, when the Romans were in power, crucifixion was the punishment we know as today as lethal injection. So crucifixion was, if you committed a crime, then your punishment was death. And if you think about it now, some countries today still do that. Not the crucifixion, but they still kill you. Or should I say, if you think about it, in any and every country, if you've, think about being on death row, and if you've done something very bad, you're on death row, you know you're going to get lethal injection. Well, at the time, this is what they were doing. Crucifixions was something during that time. And it's not even in the Bible. You don't even have to read it. But if you could go and hear some history books, learn about Roman history, you'll figure out that was one of their that was the death sentence. They also had things like they would cut off your hands, your feet. If you think about it, past AD, thinking about 1100 AD, when Europe at the time was mainly a Caucasian white, or however you want to call it. Mainly that's what it was. And if you think about it, at that time, they had a plague called the death, or the Black Plague, if you wanted to call it. And that wiped out a lot of people. So at the time, not only during BC or AD, they had different plagues. We had, if you read in Exodus, the different plagues that Egypt endured for so many years, they had these plagues. But throughout history, we always had plagues. There was always violence. There was, what we see in today is nothing short of what was done years ago. The only difference is what they did back then, they used a lot of swords. Today we use a lot of guns. But death is death no matter how you look at it, because these people were killing, according to what you've learned, or what I've learned and what people have learned in their lifetime, is a lot of people died over sometimes frivolous things. Like today, think about it. When they had the American Revolution War, We went to war because we didn't want British to take over. Was that the main reason that we went to war? Or was it because we had to hide different things? If you watch different movies, you learned something about history itself. So as we move forward, as we found out that this man Jesus has died and resurrected, if the events are true to our knowledge, and just remember that translating Aramaic was at the time probably hard. I learned that King David had some writers to translate the Bible, and it wasn't easy for these scrolls and for these prophets, or should I say these men who had visions, wrote these visions down. And it was kind of hard to translate, because remember, now we're moving from one language, Aramaic, to another language, to Greek, and then to Romans, whatever they spoke. And then you move forward, not only to that, you move forward to another culture who speaks a different language. So now, I find out that some of the stuff that was written in the Bible, if it's true or not, was misinterpreted. And it can happen. Think about, let's say you're an individual person. Let's say you only speak one language. Well, let's say you want to read a certain book, or let's say you become a translator and you need to translate this book into your own language. If you are not familiar with that language, or let's say you kind of know a little bit about the language, but there are still some things, some words you don't know, how do you translate it? Would it be easy? Would it be hard? Would you have to find somebody else that could help you translate it? Think about this. What if only a handful of people, let's say about 10 or 20 people, are the only ones that kind of know a little bit, or should I say they have the same knowledge as you about that language? Would it be easy to translate it? That's the question. Well, as we look at the historical events, especially as we move forward and we go through Europe, and at the time, Europe was crowded. A lot of people don't know, about the 1000 AD or 1100 AD, Europe was crowded. What I mean is that we had a lot of Europeans who were put into prison. They were put into prison for drunkenness. It could be lewd, obscene behavior. It could have been anything at that time. Well, the kings and queens of these countries had to find a way to get rid of these criminals. And if you think about it, a lot of these people who rode these boats were probably criminals. Whoever rode with any of these captains of any ship, if you think about it. So as they were trying to find a new country, they kind of stopped off with Africa. A lot of people, especially a lot of African American people, think, well, 400 years of slavery, it was only that race. But if you think about it, throughout history in Europe, during the time that it was crowded, they had a lot of Caucasian or white slaves at that time too, which a lot of people might not think of. The only reason they had a lot of African slaves was because a lot of these tribes were selling their own people. If what I'm saying is true. Like I said, within this documentary, it is for the viewer to find out what's true and what's not true. Well, after they sell their own people, as I read throughout history, that is why a lot of these Africans were slaves. But when they went to this new country, as now we know as the North America, they were going to find gold. Well, I've had a feeling that not only that, but to also plow different fields as well. The kings and queens gave them loans at the time. And if you think about it, a loan today, that's what our country was founded on. Think about when the Continental Army, or should I say, think about when George Washington or Jefferson or Jackson or Hamilton, when they started buying up the Louisiana Purchase. They had to have a loan to do that. Well, at the time, as I read history, I learned that gold was the main monetary value that backed up the money itself, our monetary value, which is money. So gold was the one to back up our monetary value. If you think about it, when the founding fathers, if you want to call them that, found gold, to use that gold to print up money. Because if you think about that, printers to print up newspapers, if you think about Paul Revere, if you think about the British that was coming, who came overseas with 2 lamps, if you think about that, then kind of think about what else happened throughout that gap. Think about that war. People talk about this war, the American Revolution war that you talk about. If you think about it, could they have another agenda to it? Well, if you read in history, the ones who signed the Declaration of Independence were Freemasons. Now people will say, well, there's 2 types of Freemasons. Yes, they probably do. Bricklaying and the other Freemasons. The Knights Templar were Freemasons as well. What I learned in history was that the Freemasons were supposed to be an organization to help African Americans learn to read and write, to become citizens if you want to. How true is it? Is up to you to decide. Well, as you learn throughout history, that they had not only these Freemasons, but they had people who believed that they were religious. They had people that hanged other people. They had hangings of people who were witches. A lot of people who had visions were considered witches and warlocks. A lot of children, I believe at the time, had a lot of these people killed. And because I'm assuming that if these children couldn't get their way, they probably did have these people convinced, or should I say, have a committee convinced that these people were witches and warlocks. But it's up to you to decide. And as you learn in this documentary, you learn a little bit of everything. Because that's what I'm speaking about, a little bit of everything in history. Well, as we moved forward, but remember, think about this. When those people that signed the Declaration of Independence, did they have things to hide? Think about it. Think about these slaves. Wouldn't these founding fathers had sexual relationships with these female African slaves? Could it have been possible? Could it have been possible that these founding fathers had a secret that they hide? Could they have a secret organization that these men belonged to? Was this secret organization, was it supposed to deal with a one world government? Could these secret organizations have had people killed for them telling other people about these secret organizations? What do you think, viewers? Is it possible that they had these secret organizations? Is it still possible that people today have different secret organizations that you cannot get into? And within these secret organizations, if you do not keep these secrets, are you murdered? Or do they kill you? for not keeping their secrets? Think about that. If they had secret organizations then, could they have secret organizations now? Was it true in the past when the Creator created these people? Or if you think about Darwin evolution, is that true as well? Well, did they have cavemen? Did the cavemen learn to move into another level in life? Is it possible? Or is everything that's happening, could it have happened during this pre-Adamic race? Could they have the same knowledge and technology we had? Well, as I started reading, I started figuring out that some cultures were advanced, if you think about it, with ships, airplanes. Some people today think that we are more civilized, or should I say, our technology was far advanced than the others. But couldn't these other cultures have some type of advanced creations that they created that we might not know of? Because when you read in history about different things, especially with the city Sodom and Gomorrah, think about this. People only think homosexuality was a sin. Could these two cities, they had 4 different cities besides that. Could those 4 cities, because they were all destroyed, could there have been more than just one sin? Could they have sinned more than once? And if the ash and volcano, if the ashes, couldn't it have come from volcanoes when the city was destroyed? Did the sulfur and fire come out of heaven? Or could it have been that these cities were on, or probably under, volcanoes? And when this volcanic eruption destroyed all these 4 cities? Was it possible? That's for you to decide. Every culture at the time had, what you think about polygamy? At the time it wasn't. They had different kings who had different wives, and they had different children. Is that the idea of what people have today? Do they think like that? People today, I think, have some of the mentalities our ancestors had. Because now we think about this. We think about people who go on crazy, or should I say they go to a psych ward. Are these people really as demented as they seem? Could it be that demons inhabit human beings, make them do different things? Is it possible for that? Or is it just that mankind is just losing the grip on society, on their own society? Is it possible to have guardian angels? Is it possible that the spiritual world exists? Are we reincarnated? Is it possible that when you die, that is it for your life? Think about those questions that I just pushed at you. Or as I continue with the history, certain sections in history, was it possible for all these people that came to the new land, was it possible for them to mix with other races? Did they? Is it true that a lot of our ancestors had to leave the European country for religious beliefs? Was it because of war? What could it have been to make these people leave? Think about it. Think about this. Are mankind, is mankind, are they born? Are we born differently? Are we born, especially sexual orientation, is it true that you're born straight, gay, or bi? Is it possible that we choose that lifestyle? This is things you have to think about. Was it possible for our ancestors not to know that things that was written down in the Constitution would be reconstructed in another way? Could we have thought, are we thinking differently? When these people wrote the Constitution, did we know, and I'm going to give you an example, freedom of speech. What is that? Is it true that these paparazzis, it don't have to be paparazzis, these people who you watch on television, they get all these stories. Is it their right to get all these different stories? Is it their right to undermine different stories? Is it right to make up stories? Is that part of freedom of speech? What does it mean when we have freedom of speech? If you read the Constitution, what does each section really mean? Can it be reinterpreted now? Is that what these founding fathers, or these men, is that what they had for the Constitution, to be reinterpreted? To think differently, if you want to think about it like that? What was their purpose of doing that, of writing the Constitution? What was the purpose of freeing the slaves? When slavery was abolished, was it because of the war? Was it because Lincoln himself needed troops? Or did they have to do it? Was it mandatory that they had to do it? Or did the Africans push that certain word, abolishment? Did they push it to a point that they had to do it? Why? That's a question you ask yourself. If you think about it, also, Lincoln was shot in history by Daniel Booth. Why was this president shot? Are there still treasures in this earth? According to the news, we have untapped oil. Is it true? How true is it? Is it true that once we defeated the British, did we really become free? Is it true when we went to World War I and World War II, did we free ourselves? Did we free these other people? Do we have allies or do we have enemies? As each president comes into power, what is their agenda? If you have a committee or board of directors, what is their agenda? Do they have people in this world that have hidden agendas? Or is everything black and white, as some people think? What makes a human being do what that human being does? What convinces people to go to college or further their education? What makes people do not want to further their education? What makes people want to work for minimum wage only? Do we have choices in this world? Do we have a choice of the clothes that you wear, the shoes? Do you have a choice of how you think? Are you really free? Is there such thing as freedom in this world? Why has prayer been taken out of schools? Why is the Pledge of Allegiance no longer said in schools? Why has all these things happened? Then we wonder about why people kill one another, why there's murder, why people kill in schools. Why has our society been turned upside down? Questions you need to ask yourself. Is everyone in the world really sane? Do we have people that's insane? Is insanity running the family? Is it a gene? Is it also a certain gene that makes up what people think, their sexual orientation? I'm assuming that there's a gene that makes up your certain racial background. Is it true that two people that could be light skinned or brown skinned, can they have children who are dark skinned? or bright skin? Is it possible in this world? Those are questions you have to ask yourself. What is possible? What is impossible? Is it true that if you're Caucasian or white, you get the better job, and if you're a minority, you don't? Is it true that people are jealous at one another, angry? Are you frustrated? Can you not help one another? Has people in this world, has your heart grown cold? Is it possible to love someone? What choices do you make in the world that lets you know what to do, how to do it, when to do it? Are we told? Are we like puppets? Is there a puppet master who pulls the strings? Is this world even really real? Is this world probably some fictional world into a creator's mind? Think about those things. As you learned in these documentaries that I'm going to talk about, you learn the histories, the historical chronicles in this world. Well, as I started talking about all these things in history, here's some other questions you should think about. Is there really a last days in this world? Is everything that Revelation talk about, will it happen? Are we on a collision course with the asteroid and meteorite? Will they have a world chancellor? Will people be taken up, as it says? Are we to assume that mankind is doomed? Is there another alternative? What about global warming? What about, we already have almost a pandemic disease. What about HIV and AIDS? Is there a cure? Will there ever be a cure? Will there ever be a cure to any sexually transmitted disease? Will there be a cure to any diseases that we have? Is it true that these diseases are now almost fighting the medications that we have? All of the work we put in, is it worth it in this world? Can we make a difference? Can we change the world? Where will this world chancellor come to power? Is he from the European army? Does he live in Germany? Or are we just on a collision course to a new evolution? What country do you want to live where you don't have to fear anything? Is there a safe country? Is there a country that's safe from any natural disaster? Or do you want to deal with tsunamis, earthquakes? Do you want to deal with blizzards, tornadoes, and hurricanes? Do we have the resources to make it through to another decade? What about another century? Is it possible? Are all these things possible? Is it possible that the microchip will play a part in this world? Is it possible virtual reality can come back and play a part? What is possible and what is impossible? Are we just psyching ourselves? Is there really a day where we all be judged? Can it be that mankind is doomed? Is there a heavenly place where peace lives forever? Is there a place of torment which is forever? What are these things that we see, these spirits? Is it true that these people see these things? Come on, viewers. Think about all these questions I'm throwing at you. Think about, what is life about? Does it get easier? Does it get harder? Are we able, is mankind, all of mankind, able to grow old? Are we to die young? What about these children that die? What about babies, teenagers? What about these teenagers that overdose? Why, not even just teenagers, why do we have people overdosing? Are their problems too big? people committing suicide? Are their problems in life too big? Can they not handle the pressure of life? When you work at different jobs, why is there always drama at these different jobs? Why do you have instigators? Why do you have people gossiping all the time? Why do you have people doing the things that they do? Are you confused about what people do? Why do people drink? Are they coping with their problems? Are they destroying who they are? Why do you go party all the time? Is it to have fun? Can you have fun sitting down, watching a film? Can you enjoy yourself reading a book? What is so-called fun to you as a viewer? Is it important to have friends? Is it important to have people like you? Is it important to have the best house, the best vehicles? Is it important to have the best, as many acres of land as possible? Is it good to be rich? Is it bad to be rich? Is it good to be poor, or is it bad to be poor? Do you think somebody has taken your $1 million check? Or should I say, do you believe that the mail carriers put your $1 million check in someone else's box? Do you think that the rich have it easy? Do you think the poor have it hard? What is good in life? What is cheap? What do you believe is cheap? How much is it in this world does it cost for knowledge, for power? Do you believe that spending $100 is cheap? Do you believe spending $100 is expensive? When you buy something at any store, what do you consider cheap? Should it be less than 100? Could it be less than 1,000? Think about these questions. Think about the answers to these questions. And you'll find out that whatever answer you come up with, then maybe you'll understand yourself better. Maybe you'll understand history better. All you have to do is think about it. You never know. I want you to think about these other questions I'm going to impose on you. Is there really terrorists? Are people just angry in the world? What about the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse? Are these 4 horsemen, are they real? Has peace been taken away on this earth? Those are the questions you have to ask yourself. But as you learn in history, is it true that all the jobs have been taken away from the U.S. and been put overseas? Is it true to the fact that the rich has access to everything? Is the military hiding anything? Even every government agency in the world, are they hiding anything? What are their agendas? These politicians, they say one thing. Is it true what they say at the beginning? Do they live up to what they say? Do people in this world live up to certain people's standards? Is life fun? Is life cruel? People cruel? Are children cruel to one another? What is going on in this world is for everyone to think about. Well, as I go on with a little bit of history, we learn as days, or should I say years go by, days or months or years go by, we learned, if you read history, that during one point in history, they had an African queen who was who came to the New World, as we call it, North America, and had a peace treaty. Started a peace treaty with the Europeans for her people. When she died, the peace treaty was broken. How many times in history we had peace treaties and they were broken? How many times you look at someone and you wish you could walk in their shoes? You wish you could have what they have. Do you think some people have it going on? Some people think in the world I have it going on. Is that true? Is it true? What you watch on television, the news, these shows. Is it true you see ghosts in your house? Is that true? Are we just fooling ourselves? Is it true to the fact that certain people in this world are created small, skinny, and some people are created bigger than others? Is that true? Or do we use food as comfort? We see a lot of exercise videos, should I say commercials or infomercials, and you see that and you wonder why they have a lot, especially for the United States or for North America. Are we the fattest country in the world? Are we a type of country? Is this country prejudiced? Are the people in this world, are they as hateful as you think they are? Do people help one another anymore? Is it possible? Well, in history decides, at one point, my grandmother used to tell me back when she was growing up that people probably once a week slaughtered an animal for meat and give it to others. What my grandmother used to call that the good old days, where they did a lot of farming and they had different animals, and that's what they ate. Think about it today. Is all of our food products, is it contaminated? Is the air contaminated? Why do people in this world suffer from sinuses? Is it the pollution in the air? Is it the food we eat? Is it the sodas, the pops you drink? What could it be that's destroying the human body? Or are we destroying our human body? We have all kind of medicines in this world. Is all these medications, are they worth taking? Why do we have all these medications in this world? Are people smart as they believe they are? Do they understand the truth? Do they want to know the truth? Or are people willing to make up any truth to make them feel happy? But if you have to make up truth, isn't it a lie? So you wonder to yourself, what is this world coming to? I wonder to myself. Think about in history, the wars they had, the wars that people fought over for. Did they really fight over for the war because of Jesus Christ? Is this the world Jesus pictured that mankind live in? Is this a perfect world? Imperfect world? Is this paradise? Or is this hell? Are you grateful for the things you have? Are you not grateful for the things you have? Are you not grateful if you don't have it? Are you angry, bitter, frustrated? Do you pray if you need to? Is there such thing as karma? Think about all these things I'm telling you. This is all part of history. And these are things that we need to think about in order to move forward in life. If it's worth it. Is it worth it? Think about it. Well, with everything I said, what do you believe? What do you disbelieve? If you find yourself stumped at any part, then think about it. Majority of the people in this world probably feel the same way you do. Because I think we all feel the same. Everyone hurt the same. Everyone cries. Everyone is disappointed, disgusted. Everyone is tired. People work for little or nothing. Money is something that we all have to have in order to get the things that we need. Think about these businesses that's closing. Was it because monetary value? Was it anything besides monetary value? Think about life as it is. The sun lights up the sky and the moon lights up the nighttime. Think about the different stories that these people have written. I mean, I even watch documentaries myself, and I'm compelled to try to understand why things are the way they are. I don't know. Sometimes I don't even know myself. But I learned that in life, there's a chance you have to take. And if you do not take a chance in life, you never know what the outcome is. Can anyone be afraid of taking a chance? Anyone that views this, are you taking a chance in life? Are you using the best of your abilities? Are you going to lose your gifts that was given to you? Do you use your gift? Think about it. And you'll find out what the answer is. And then hopefully we'll all understand the meaning of life. I hope I do one day. And it doesn't matter how old you are, you'll always try to figure what is the meaning of life. And you'll always try to figure, did I do the best that I can with what I had? That's a question you need to answer yourself. Here's something to think about. Why are people in the world tired? Is it the food that you eat? Is it what you drink? Do you push your body to a certain limit? Are you just unsure? Are the doctors unsure? Do you believe that things will get better? Is it possible? Is it possible to understand the meaning of life? All of these questions that I ask, everyone needs to find the answers to them. Everybody needs to find answers to any and everything that you do in life. That's what life is about. Endless possibilities. And sometimes life can be easy. Sometimes it can be hard. But think about this. You'll always have good and bad days in life. That's what life is about. Endless possibilities. Trying to make a living. And trying to do something with yourself. So all I can say is peace. Be positive. Think positive. And hopefully things will work out in life. Not only for you, but for me as well. Peace.